So good evening, folks. Thank you for joining us tonight on behalf of South Asians for Biden, whether you're watching on Facebook or on Zoom or listening live on Radio 99.5 The Bung. I welcome you to tonight's event called South Asian Unity to elect Joe Biden. Tonight's program is a widely circulated event that is being recorded and brought to you in partnership with Radio 99.5 The Bung and across major Democratic parties from 4 major Democratic parties across the greater Houston area. The Harris County Democratic Party, Fort Bend County Democratic Party, Galveston County Democratic Party, and the Brazoria County Democratic Party. My name is Omar Mirza. I am the Texas State Co-Director for South Asians for Biden. SAB is a national grassroots organization that's established in 19 different states that is mobilizing our South Asian community to elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris this November. It goes without saying that the stakes for this election are higher than ever. We have never had such a consequential election in our lifetimes. And so that means that we cannot afford to sit on the sidelines. And so that means that we need your help and for you to get involved. And so if you would like to join our team, help us campaign, or help us out in any way possible, please visit our website at southasiansforbiden.org. Follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, South Asians for Biden, and please like our pages. Now, the United States is home to a large, dynamic, and vibrant population of South Asians. Our community is drawn from various religious, ethnic, and national origins. And Houston, being the most diverse city in America, is a hub of South Asian success, achievements, and accomplishments. And so on tonight's panel, we are joined by an esteemed group of Democratic elected and appointed officials that represent our various South Asian diasporas of Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan. And we also all span various religious ideologies. The panelists will discuss how us South Asians are finding common ground, to discuss our unified aspirations, and to make a pledge that we will further our American dream by electing Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in November. And so with that, allow me to introduce the panel. First and foremost, we have Zafar Zaf Tahir. Zafar was the first South Asian Muslim American from Texas to be elected to the DNC in 2000 and then reelected in 2004. He has served in various positions throughout our city and is currently appointed on 2 commissions. He's a commissioner for the City of Houston Planning and City of Houston Airports. Next, we have Nita Sani. Nita is an elected official serving as trustee for the largest community college system in the United States, the Houston Community College. She has also been voted multiple times as one of the most influential women in Houston. Next, we have George Willy, who is a card-carrying Democrat that has been appointed to multiple advisory positions for the City of Houston, Fort Bend County, and the Democratic Party. He is a well-known attorney across the South Asian community specializing in immigration. And last, we have Nishan Khan. Nishan was elected as a national delegate to the 2016 DNC and currently holds the high distinction of being one of the 38 electors to the Electoral College representing the state of Houston. And so we're all excited to have everybody on this panel tonight. And we're also honored and privileged to be joined by 2 Democratic Party chairs with us here tonight. And Zafar, I'll hand it over to you for you to introduce them.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you so much. It is really indeed a pleasure and an honor to be introducing the chairs of 2 most dynamic counties in Texas. And Umar, you mentioned year 2000 when I was elected as a national delegate. Lily Schechter's mom was the chair at the time when I got elected. So Lily comes from a family that has served Harris County very well. It is indeed my honor to introduce Lily Schechter, who took time out from a busy schedule. Lily, I know you have other events to go to. Please give us your remarks about our efforts and about the Biden campaign, about Harris County. Lily. Lily, can you hear me? You're muted. Okay, I guess Lily is probably trying to log in. Umair, we are also very honored to have the county chair of one of the fastest growing counties in the US, Fort Bend County. I have personally known Cynthia. We have been in the trenches together. She's one of those persons who are really aware of what is happening at the grassroots level. Cynthia, please give us your words of wisdom.
Well, good evening to everyone. I'm Cynthia Ginyard, Chairwoman, Fort Bend County Democratic Party. We're proud that we turned blue in November 2018, and we are looking forward to becoming a darker shade of blue this November 2020. For everyone who is listening, I encourage you to do something. Everyone can do something to help make this happen. You love democracy? Vote Democrat. So we're looking forward to working with all of you in any way that we can to help make this happen for all of us and save our democracy. Thank you, Zaf.
Thank you, Cynthia. Please keep up the good work. Next, I hope Lily is available. Lily, can you hear us? Can you please give us your words of wisdom? I guess Lily dropped out, or I don't have Lily. We will have our technical director keep an eye on what's going on. Umair, if you allow me, let me get started. You have given a very technical description of the panelists. Before I move to panelists, I want everyone to know that Umair Mirza, our pride and joy in DC, he works for Congressman Andre Carson, is from Greater Houston area. This is where he learned his grassroots politics. Umair is now heading the South Asian for Biden campaign. Umair, thank you for allowing Greater Houston to be your first program. We appreciate it. I want to talk about Nita. You know, among the panelists, she is the only one who has really gone through and gotten elected. Others have tried. I have tried. Nita cut her teeth into the politics. I remember in a time when it was almost impossible in Harris County and Fort Bend to really, for a Democrat to win a white kind of a seat like Harris County Community College. Nita is one of those who know what is happening on the ground level. And we are delighted, we are honored to have somebody like Nita on our panel. Next, we have very attorney looking. You can see him is George Willy. George Willy is known throughout this area, throughout the region, as an expert in helping people with immigration, helping people with basic human rights, actually. He's a person who is very compassionate, has always chosen to be part and parcel of political activism. And I tell you, I have seen George Willy as a card-carrying Democrat, as a committed activist for over 3 decades now. I've known George since he and Mr. Khudabakhsh Walji had a firm called Willy and Walji. George has always been in the forefront of helping any campaign and with any effort that Democrats have launched. Last but not the least is my friend who is a proud Bangladeshi American. He is part and parcel of the South Asian community. He is a person who I think amongst all of us is probably most closest in terms of being able to hear what's happening at the grassroots level. He's the one who would go to the masjids and the mandirs and the churches and organize campaign, talk to the candidates. He is a good friend, and I'm proud to say one of my closest friends for last at least 3 decades, and we have worked on several projects. I want everybody to know that we took great pains to make sure that this panel actually reflects the diversity of South Asia, from Kabul to Rangoon and from Karachi to Assam. It includes people from South India and from Sri Lanka. It includes from portions of northern India that that represent that culture. It includes different religions, Hinduism, Christianity, Muslims. We are all here. South Asia is truly the melting pot. Everybody calls that the United States is a melting pot. South Asia is truly a melting pot. And in Greater Houston region, Umair, I will submit to you and through you to the campaign that you are looking at a community that may not be large enough in any pocket to get one of their own elected based on their ethnicity. But I tell you, this community is present in each and every corner of this region because of their education, because of their enterprise, because of their ability to help people, because of their presence in the doctor's offices, in hospitals, in universities, in the business corridors. Their shadow is much bigger than their height. They are able to carry the message of Biden and Harris, not only among their communities, but among their customers and clients and their neighbors and their followers. Their network is huge. I remember in 2004, we had 55 or 60 precinct chairs in Harris County. Texas elected at least 9 Asian American national delegates in 2004. In 2000, I was the first and only one. This community was behind election of county-wide, for the first time in 15 years, county-wide Democrats in Fort Bend County. This community cannot be ignored anymore. This community is on the radar screen. This community is proud to come together as South Asian. Yes, we are famous for our differences in subcontinent. I call that subcontinent of the Indo-Pak subcontinent. And I would like to take a minute and say in Urdu and Hindi कि मैं आप सब लोगों को खुशामदीद कहता हूं कि आप लोगों ने हमें ज्वाइन किया, आप इस जूम रूम में आए, आप रेडियो के जरिए हमारी बातचीत सुन रहे हैं और आपको इस बात का एहसास होना चाहिए कि हमने बड़ी कोशिश की है. एंड आई वांट टू थैंक उमैर and others in the campaign to pull in all the cultures, all the ethnicities, जितनी भी ज़बानें हैं, जितने भी मजहब हैं, जितनी भी नस्लें हैं, जितने भी लोग हैं यहाँ पे मौजूद, ये सब जो है पूरे बड़े सगीर को रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं. And with that, Umair, let's start the initial round that you had in mind.
Lily has joined us, Zafar.
Sir?
Lily has joined us.
Oh, Lily has joined us.
Yes.
Lily, if you can hear us,
I can.
We are delighted and honored. I know you are running the biggest county, the most important county for Democrats right now. We just heard words of wisdom from Cynthia. We would like you to share with us some of your words of wisdom.
I first just want to apologize. My phone died. I'm actually at an event, but because Zaf is so important to me, I committed to step out of the event, not realizing that my technology would all really stop working. So I apologize tremendously for that. The work we're doing at the Harris County Democratic Party is so incredibly important, and we cannot do it without supporters like you and working with groups. The Asian American Pacific Islander community is incredibly important to us. We have a committee, we have an organizer, because we believe that truly one of the fastest growing populations in Texas and Harris County, and a critical component of the Democratic big tent and Democratic family, or the AAPI community. So we just wanted to say thank you, and I apologize for my terrible technology, sound, lighting, everything. But we are thrilled that I could just take a minute to say hi and say thank you, Zaf, and everyone, Nita, everyone, to see your faces. It's so nice to see you. With that, nice. I'll let you get on with your program.
Yes.
Again, thank you.
Lily, before you go, you were not able to hear us. You come from a long line of people who have served. They mentioned that I was a national delegate in 2000. Your mother was one of the most effective chairs of Harris County Democratic Party. So thank you for your services. Thank you for your family for their services. And let's, Lily, we're going to have a panel discussion. Please stay with us as long as you can. But we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Umair. we want to go to the panel now, and I think the next one was Nita to give us her opening remarks and her thoughts.
Yep, Nita, so we'll kick it off with you.
Sure. First of all, let me say, thank you, Zafar, and thank you, Omer, for your leadership. And it's an honor to join such an esteemed group of South Asian American leaders. I'm just honored. And of course, our Democratic Party chairs are the backbone of everything we do. Just want to say thank you for, having us all, Nishan, George, as we all move forward together, united in support of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So I'm excited about that. Speaking of my Democratic journey a little bit, I am proud to be a trailblazer Democrat in Fort Bend County and been working all these years building coalition, serving in various capacities, and most importantly, fighting the battles, uphill battles for the Democrats for over 15 years now. And just to give you a quick background about my elected public service, I was elected and re-elected to serve as a trustee of Houston Community College, which is one of the largest community colleges in the nation. And of course, it was a long journey, and worked very hard with my colleagues, and they elected me to serve as the board chair of the Houston Community College. And we have done great things for the community. So over 12 years of my elected public service, I have initiated many programs, led several programs focusing on workforce training, entrepreneurship, diversity and inclusion, and most importantly, building coalition among all the communities. Also, I have established Aspire Scholarship, which is an endowment scholarship for Asian Americans, for those who are in need of financial support to complete their education and succeed in their career pathways. So I'm excited and going forward, excited to support Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and as Zafar said, we South Asian Americans have a lot in common. One may realize it or not. We may come from various countries in South Asia. We may follow different religions, but we do have one common culture, and that is the culture of education. Also, we have one common priority, and that is to ensure financial stability for our families, for our children, for our youth, our seniors. And I am equally proud of South Asian Americans. They are hardworking, they are professionals, and many of South Asian Americans have become really very wealthy. No doubt about that. We are proud about that fact. But we cannot overlook one fact that a large number of South Asian Americans are still struggling to get a quality education and have stable career pathways and have financial stability in their life. So I feel at this point, we as South Asian Americans, all of us, need to be concerned about the income inequality that is the highest among all Asian American groups. And so that's why this year's presidential election is very important, more important than ever. And we need to elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to make sure they get an opportunity to strengthen the American education system and build an economy that will work for all. So I'm excited to be with you all, looking forward to the discussion, and let's get the ball rolling.
Thank you, Nita. Thank you so much. You are a well-known figure, and today now you are on national channels. George, what can I say about you? But please jump in, give us your opening remarks, your thoughts. You have a huge history with Democratic Party.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Zafar, and thank you for your leadership here. And Omer, thanks for putting this together. Those of us from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka, and Nepal were allowed finally, we migrated to allow us to migrate only in 1965, when President Johnson signed into law Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965 against the opposition of Republicans. All major immigration benefits came from Democratic presidents against Republican opposition. South Asian migration to the US is largely misunderstood. The Sikhs came to the US in 1899. Along with the Punjabis, there were also Muslims and Hindus in that group as refugees and as farm workers, and were an influential presence enough to elect a congressman of their own. A long forgotten fact is that South Asians were allowed to become US citizens only in 1946. We, along with the Chinese, were classified as non-whites by the Chinese Exclusion Act. It is the first Indian to become a US congressman, Dalip Singh Sond, who argued for our citizenship. And President Truman, another Democrat, signed it into law. Since our early struggles, we have come to the US in larger and larger numbers. We have become a force to reckon with. Google, Microsoft, Adobe, MasterCard, Nokia, etc. are all led by South Asians. All this will change if we re-elect Trump. As an immigration attorney, I see this every day. There is a finely orchestrated massacre of immigration process underway. Asylum process has been completely torn up. All safeguards we gave to asylees have been torched. The Sikhs who came here as refugees in 1899 will not be able to get their asylum now. They have muffled the voices of fair immigration judges and created an appellate body with anti-immigrant members. They have reassigned judges who apply the law fairly. All cases at US consulates abroad involving family and employment, with a few exceptions, have been suspended until 31st, 2020. And if Trump is re-elected, he will extend that for God knows how long.
Yeah.
Here inside the US, they are fighting back on minor issues. Issuance of green cards and citizenship are being deliberately delayed by introducing additional burdens on the applicant. The administration thinks that they want to stop and reverse the browning of America. In other words, they do not want us here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Any support for Trump, therefore, is against our interest. Let's vote in an immigration-friendly Democratic ticket, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. What is even more dangerous is the deception. They have perfected the art of denying the obvious. We have done the most COVID testing, they say. We have the least deaths from COVID-19. Our economy is growing, etc., etc. While the facts are directly in opposition. This is an old propaganda tool used by autocrats. When the President of the United States stands up and says 1 + 1 = 4, you give him the deference because you do not think a person in that position would lie about something like that. The truth is, he does. So it is with immigration.
Mm-hmm.
What he does is not what he's saying.
Sure.
Thank you.
George, nobody could have put it better than this. You have the reputation and credibility region-wide, and I would say nationally. I think you're an expert. And Omer, please make sure that people like George Willy are tabbed by President Biden when he is formulating the policy. I mean it with all sincerity and seriousness. If there is somebody in Houston area that we can send to DC for advice, it is George Willy. Nishan, I cannot emphasize enough the value that people like you bring, and Cynthia is here watching and listening to the campaigns, to the issues, to the grassroots. Please, Nishan, you are next, and share some wisdom with us.
Thank you. Thank you, all panelists. Thank you, Omar, for arranging this. All this discussion that you have said, we have complained about it. It's a complaint, our complaint, people's complaint. But to get that thing, we have to get out and vote in masse. The key to the White House success of the getting Biden and Kamala Harris to the White House is the unity. Our community here, South Asian, is, even though in Fort Bend we have a larger number than any other county in the state. However, we're the fast-growing county, fast-growing population in this county in the state of Texas. So when Democrats win, people win, and every single election we have seen how our community was, what should I say, entrapped or offered something to divide us. It could be religion, it could be our culture, it could be our ethnicity, various things. So my suggestion, united, we win. And when Democrats win, people will win. Thank you.
Nishan, thank you so much. You have been very humble in your approach. I must point out to this panel and to all the viewers, Nishan is one of those who will get Texas blue. It is, Umair, it is people like Nishan, and you must let Biden campaign know, these are the people who engage with people outside churches and mosques and mandirs and spend hours trying to convince them. We could not have turned Fort Bend blue without people like Nishan. So Umair, I hand it over to you. I know you have some questions from Biden campaign and you want to start the discussion.
Yeah, so Zafar, I'm going to kick this right back to you. So you serve on two commissions that are very intimately involved in the economy of Houston. But there is a perception out there that Democrats are bad for business. I want you to address that. And then also talk about a little bit about foreign affairs as well, and how the Biden campaign is addressing that, and how Trump has been destructive in our place in the world.
So, Umair, these are probably the two most important things for South Asians. And I was having a very deep discussion with Neeta this morning. You know, there's this perception that every South Asian is driving a Mercedes S-Class, is living in Avalon in Sugar Land, or has a big house in Memorial, has a PhD, or is running some kind of a software business, or is a very successful cardiologist. Yes, we are all of that. But we are also a community, Umair, and to my listeners, that is being left behind, because the opportunities, especially we have seen in the last 4 years, are going past by us. Yes, I serve as a commissioner with City of Houston, and this is a huge region. This is 11 county region. We are the most dynamic, one of the most dynamic economic region in the US. We are the only region except New York that has 2 international airports. And God willing, we'll have a third one. We have not one, but 11 ports from Beaumont all the way to Freeport. We have huge traffic of international passengers. COVID has put a dent on it. We have the largest number of consulates after New York. We have more consulates representing the world than even Los Angeles. That is the strength of Houston. And South Asians are in it. They are in it intimately. They are part of it. They're in the front row. They're in the front line. We, tomorrow, Umair, if South Asian community were to decide that they're not going to carry a certain product in their convenience store or gas stations, believe me, the owner of that company will be in Houston in hours. If they decide to shut down something, this economy will come to a standstill. But it's also a fact that we are dealing with social issues. We are dealing with unemployment. We are dealing with lack of educational opportunities. Some of our communities are living in areas where schools are getting behind. This is an important discussion. I will take up foreign policy after this, but I would like to kick this with Nita first.
Zafar, let me interrupt really quickly.
Please.
Talk about this point though, because a lot of people talk about how Republicans are better for business than Democrats.
Yes, I missed that. Yeah.
Address that point.
Yeah, that is very important. Very few desis that are still supporting Trump or Republican Party are under this impression, wrongfully, that Republicans are good for business, Democrats are bad for business, that somehow Democrats don't aspire for people to succeed. Absolutely wrong. Go find the statistics of Greater Houston Partnership. We want to generate jobs. Democrats want to expand the economy. Democrats want to redo your structure. They want to make sure when you land at Intercontinental Airport in Houston, that it is no less than the newest airport in Istanbul. We want to bring train that Republicans have been opposing from Dallas to Houston, a high-speed train, and then linking San Antonio and Austin. We want to help a small business owner. We want to spread the wealth. We are not about just multi-million-dollar jobs and corporations. That's not economic activity. Economic activity is that machine shop on Shift Channel, that client that George Willy has, that student that Nita Sani is mentoring right now, or that friend that Nishan has who's trying to sell real estate. Those people need government's help and guidance. And the party that is actually more suitable for this community's economic well-being, it's not the Republican Party. It is the Democratic Party. Ask Fort Bend. It is one of the most high-tech and advanced places in Texas. Why did they choose county-wide 3 people from the Democratic Party? We are the party of choice. We are the party of business. We are the party of job creation. And with that, allow me to first go to Nita, and then George, and then Nishan. Before we come to what Democrats can do for foreign policy, please keep your remarks brief because we do want to cover a lot of ground. Nita, you're next.
All right. Thank you for bringing that up, Zafar, and I'll keep it brief. And speaking of the income inequality, you are so right. I mean, there are about, based on the latest data, about nearly 10% of the approximately 5 million South Asian Americans who live in the United States live in poverty. There are thousands and thousands of South Asian DACA students, over 600,000 Indians undocumented. So it's not the myth, it's not just the glory of having all the wealth and it's showcasing it, but there is a need out there to make sure that South Asian Americans are not left out. There is tremendous need for them to have a fair job, a good paying job. And what I like the most is Joe Biden's policy. He has a bold plan to even out the income inequalities by increasing funding for minority development, minority business development agencies, creating millions of jobs in manufacturing, clean air, and infrastructure. And I'm not going to go over it too much. But basically, he will make sure that he will create neighborhood centers, welcome centers to help all the residents have jobs. Make sure that they have all services. They get to navigate to the education system, healthcare system, and all the important facets of life. And coming back to the workers' rights and communities' rights, he will make sure that the corporate America pays the fair share and workers will have a fair return on their work and equal chance to get ahead in the careers. And that's what we are all about. And that's what I am really sold out on Joe Biden's economic policy, education policy. And I really want our listeners and all our community members to really come out and support Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for the good of this country and for all of us.
Nita, thank you. George, there is a perception that immigration somehow hampers economic activity, and nobody knows this better than you. You know how economy and immigrations are tied together. There has
Absolutely.
Please talk about it.
Absolutely. Clearly this country is a country of immigrants. We pool so much talent, so much skill, and I get to see some of the finest people working here and then helping every other industry. It's a mind-boggling thing to see the level of skill and talent these folks bring here. And so there's no question. If you destroy immigration, you destroy this country, because we draw from that. We not only that, but look at we have what is known as an EB-5, where you people come and invest $1 million or $500,000, and they get their green cards. With that program, we pulled in so much money into this country. And then there is something called an E2 visa, a treaty investor visa, which Clinton was the one that really not pioneered it, but he pushed that across the world and tied up several countries with this what we call commerce and navigation treaties. And under those treaties, people can come here and invest as little as $50,000, $75,000, do business and stay here. And you know how many people are here on that E2 visas. People don't talk about that. This one-liners about immigration. It's a real disservice to the country. And then Republicans have specifically have always attacked immigration. That's been, and this president especially has been in the forefront of attacking immigration. And I want to quickly also comment on something that Nita said. Democrats are the best for the economy, because the last time somebody balanced the budget was Bill Clinton, right? He was not a Republican, as I remember. The second thing is that, and the reason that is the case is Sumner, the guy who served in Clinton and Obama campaigns. He said the reason why economy does well under Democrats is because they take care of the middle class. And if you don't take care of the middle class, the economy collapses. Yes. You can't continue to only just take care of the top, 10% of the country. You could do that for a little while. The stock markets will do well and all that, but they'll eventually collapse because the middle class has been destroyed. So the Democrats, very carefully, they nurture the middle class, and that is part of the reason why our economy does what it does.
Well, George, you hit it. We want to expand the middle class and not create two classes. Nishan, you are on the street, and tell us, how do we convince our people who are still on the fence, as a small business owner that you interact with, why Democrats are much, much better? They have a plan compared to Republicans.
Well, like George said about the plan, Democrats always stand for the middle class. Without the middle class, the country backbone is completely destroyed. That's what's happening right now. It is just going to the top 1%, and that culture has to come an end. Why we are so, what you call it, one has gone completely to the right and the other has gone completely to the left. Now, what needs to happen? It needs to happen is, I always heard for the last 4 decades almost, come to the middle. Whatever the way you run, at the end, come to the center. Mm-hmm. It was for the Republican also. It was also for the Democrat. Majority of this population of the United States, they want a peaceful, prosperous, and powerful country. And the only way we have seen that if the middle class stays alive. Now, to get these people involved, like you mentioned about the business community and other things, they're coming forward. They appreciate the time that I spend on the ground. They say that your time is very valuable. You are spending that time. Let me go back and talk about a little bit on 2018. I hope Cynthia is still here. The amount of people who registered in Fort Bend prior to that, I'm one of them, voter registered. Even if it's for one vote, I take trouble to go and do it, and then take it to the Rosenberg Annex to drop it. It's not easy. It's difficult. And as a matter of fact, I have registered through this week 2 people. I'm going to go and drop it hopefully by tomorrow.
Okay.
So in 2018, Fort Bend, we were able to register vote, and then we had been able to elect a South Asian county judge for the first time. We made a history. We also elected a county-wide Fort Bend County DA, Brian Middleton. So KP George and Brian Middleton, they're working together and they're working hard. If you notice KP's schedule and Brian's schedule, it's unbelievable. When they get rest, I do not know. They work hard. They're working for the people. So I have a prophecy. Cynthia, I hope she was here. She's part of it. In 2020, Fort Bend will turn blue. A lot of people are afraid to say that. I think that's my prophecy. Fort Bend will be turning blue.
Yes, God willing, like I say, inshallah.
And thus Texas will turn blue.
Oh boy, okay.
All right.
That's my hope.
Okay. So Nishan, let's move to Umair. Are we ready to move forward?
Yeah, I wanted to get you back in on a question that I asked you earlier, Zafar. Look, over the past 3.5 years, Donald Trump has just decimated the United States' foreign policy. He's embarrassed us on the national stage. Talk a bit about our role in the world and what Joe Biden will do to bring us back to the level of prominence that we've had for so many decades.
Well, Umair, it's a known fact that South Asians and people from Middle East stay very well connected to their homelands where they came from or their parents came from. And it is very important for South Asians to take interest in foreign policy. Now, there is this general impression out there that Republicans are more engaged with foreign policy and that Trump has taken these actions that we have seen that are really more for publicity purposes. I want my friends to know that yes, South Asia especially has been a hotbed of politics that has entangled countries, cultures, and religions. But you know, the solution is not to ignite fire by adding fuel to it. The solution is for us to elect people who go represent us, Umair, in DC, and I see Kareem Farishta there. Please take this message to DC that South Asian community wants leadership in DC that will actually enhance people-to-people contact, that will bring about a foreign policy that is compassionate towards the people of South Asia. What are the issues? Alleviation of poverty, enhancement of education, investment. They don't want aid, they want trade. They want America to lead by example. They want America to tap into this population that is close to 1.5 billion from Kabul to Rangoon. You know, our presence is not only big in South Asia, but we have huge expat communities all over the world. And I want my friends to know, whether you're from Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, or even from Burma or Afghanistan, Joe Biden and his team, their ears are to the ground. Their eyes are focused on people. Look at the background of Kamala Harris. Look at the lifestyle of Joe Biden. On foreign policy, Umair, my personal feeling is that by electing Joe Biden, we will usher in a new era where old rivalries in South Asia will have no choice but to sit down and talk. They will need to talk because the focus will be on their issues of poverty, teeming cities, collapsing health systems. Yes, we have the finest people that come out of South Asia, but our index in social indicators are very poor. And I would like my panel to really focus on this message. How do we tell our fellow Americans what South Asia or South Asians feel about the foreign policy of the Democratic Party? Nita, I'll ask you to go first because that seems to be the order.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I think one thing that we all are saying over and over is the economy, the education, and whether it materializes through foreign policy that this administration is going to propose, or whether it is done domestically. But it all comes down to having strong educational foundation, strong economy, strong trade with all the South Asian countries, because that's the common ground that we have. When we were there in South Asia, education was important, jobs, careers, businesses, that was the priority, and it is still here in the United States. So whatever the foreign policy that they formulate, it should encompass educational frontiers, advancement, because this country at this point is really lagging in the educational standing in the world, and we cannot succeed without having ourselves at the forefront. So I think the foreign policy should include high quality of education, affordable education, and the quality of economic trade and the discussions way beyond religious divide. And just the divisions have to really be, as you said, talking with diplomacy is what is needed. And I think Joe Biden's administration will do that really very well.
Thank you, Nita. George, you have a perspective that I think none of us do from the southern part of subcontinent and Sri Lanka. And then also, George, as a practicing Christian American, you have a perspective on foreign policy that none of us share. You know, people think of South Asia as primarily Muslim, Hindu, and Sikh. So please give us your thoughts.
Well, you know, my last name, Willy, sometimes saves me. The issue, initially, I think, Zafar, the Biden administration, what it's going to do is it's going to repair the damage that's been done to foreign policy. You know, we have gutted our State Department. There are so many ambassadorships that have not been filled. There are so many high-level positions in the State Department that have not been filled, right? And it seems like there's a deliberate effort to weaken our foreign policy and to allow players like Russia play into this, you know, into that vacuum. We picked a fight with WHO. We picked a fight with the United Nations. We no longer are friends with Germany. We fought with Britain. So France, all of these traditional allies, we have killed our relationship. So I think that's one of the things that Biden is going to do, is to repair. It's going to take a while, because if this continues, Zafar, in this three and a half years, we haven't felt the full effect of this. But in the next, if you have another 4 years of this, it is going to affect everything that we do. All right. So I think that's going to get repaired first. Second thing is, one of the things that I think the administration should do is, if you notice that when there's an ambassador needed in Ireland, they send an Irishman. They send a guy from Ireland. If they want somebody in Germany, they send somebody who has German background, right? Russia, they send it. Why can't they send, you know, Indian to India, Pakistani to Pakistan, Sri Lankan to Sri Lanka? Because, you know, there's an immediate connection. Yes. They're going to be able to sway quite a bit of policy, because there's no room. You know, they already broken down all of the barriers that already exist if some foreigner goes in there, right?
George, I thought we were going to send you to DC to help Joe Biden formulate the immigration policy, but looks like you want to go to Colombo and this country in Colombo. Omer and Kareem, please take notes. Sean, please give us your thoughts on the foreign policy aspects of Democrats.
There is no better person to formulate the foreign policy other than Joe Biden. Joe Biden has been there since I watched him in the Senate. Nothing moved in the Senate without three people: Ted Kennedy, Joe Biden, and later John Kerry. So Joe Biden knows foreign policy. He has been there. He was VP, and So my suggestion would, my take is on this is who can handle better foreign policy, who has served the Obama administration for 8 years as his top diplomat to some extent. The president is the top diplomat of your country. Of course, we have a designation called Secretary of State. Obviously, that was Secretary Clinton. Biden was President Obama's foreign policy advisor. And that's one of the reasons Biden Obama picked Biden. So Biden has the governing power. And we know Biden is an honest guy. Somebody, I'm sure you all know it or not, Obama dropped Biden's file from his desk when he saw that Biden has only $165,000 total as asset. He called his advisors and asked them, is it really true? This guy, he's been 27 years in the Senate. So what an honest man. If you are willing to assign somebody to do the job, there's no better honest person than Joe Biden.
Nishan, I think this is a perfect end to your comment that Joe Biden, there's nobody better than Joe Biden. Omer, I just want to make one last remark that for everybody listening to us in South Asia, if you are extremist, if you want to fan the fires of hatred, if you want to take South Asian communities to extremism and fundamentalism, Joe Biden is not your man. And Joe Biden is not the man that America is going to send to DC. America is ready and willing to send a man to DC who will ensure that people resolve their differences, resolve the underlying issues. He will have an engaging foreign policy in South Asia. And he's also committed, a lot of people are interested in Middle East, he's committed to a balanced foreign policy all over the world, whether it is calling this virus as China virus. So all of these things are going to be part of history. Omer, we are looking at last 3 minutes. We can talk for hours and hours, but I'll hand it over to you.
So I'll just to close it out, I want to go one more time around the panel in as few words as possible, briefly, for the people that are watching on this call who have never participated in the political process. Tell them one way that they can help Joe Biden and Kamala Harris get elected. Zafar, we'll start with you.
There is no choice. This election is the most consequential election of history. This country has never elected a person either by mistake or maybe we were oblivious, but we did make a mistake. We elected somebody who is conducting affairs of his own party from the lawns of White House. He is making mockery of our law and order. To all of my friends who are listening, Democrats, Independent, Republicans, Conservative, Liberals, Progressive, of any faith, we don't have a choice. Our only and only choice is Joe Biden, and on his side, Kamala Harris, a proud South Asian. Please help us get them to DC. Neeta.
Yes, sir. I appreciate all the viewpoints. George and Nishan, Zafar, you just are amazing. I just want to wrap up saying, you know, guys, if you want a better lifestyle, better education, better finances for your families, for your children, for your youth and your seniors, all your life, you want to have better life, Democratic Party and Joe Biden's wisdom and his experience would be the right choice for you at this point. We do not have other choice, and we have a proven choice. It's been better under the Democratic leadership. It will get better again. And so everyone should go to the polls, take your friends, take your coworkers, your family members, vote for Biden, vote for Biden and Kamala Harris. And let's look forward to a better future for our generation and our future generations to come. That's all I can just say.
Thank you, Neeta. George, please give us your closing remarks. we need to wrap up.
Zafar and Amir, thank you so much for doing this, and I think we should do more of this. Firstly, I think one of the things that any one of you who's listening should do is write down 10 people who are registered to vote and make sure that they do go out and vote. If each one of you does that, just 10 people, and you add them and you make sure that they get out there and vote, that's going to make a big difference. As far as the urgency is concerned, we are about to lose our democracy. This may sound like some sort of doomsday, prediction, but let me tell you, for those of us who see from the inside, this is already a massive attack on democracy. And then King John signed the Magna Carta, in the 1500s, and we have grown from that, and we've created this great democracy. And we are actually in danger of losing that. If you don't believe that, then you're not listening. And so, at least for the democracy's sake, please do what you have to do. Go out there and vote.
Go out there and vote. Nishan, your closing remarks, please.
Well, with the same direction as one of the famous female activists, Gloria Steinem, said, if you don't vote, you don't exist. So I would say it's our existential threat right now. Democracy, it doesn't look like the democracy, the United States will be a democracy, remain a democratic country. The way it's heading, so I think we all need to get out and ask your friends, relatives, go vote with your family, make it a fun event, ask your friends' family, ask everyone to come out and vote.
Yes, if you don't vote, you don't exist.
I love that.
I want to take one last opportunity to thank everybody and bring in somebody that you're seeing on the panel, Kareem Farishta. Kareem is pride and joy of our community. He is an example of what South Asians can produce out of Greater Houston. And he's one of those who will continue to make us proud. Kareem, thank you for joining us. I know you're busy on other forums. Please share some words of wisdom, and please share with us that how can you get George to DC and maybe Colombo to represent this country.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for having me, and thank you everyone who's joined the South Asian Unity event. My name is Kareem Farishta. I'm the Deputy Coalitions Director for the Biden for President campaign here in Texas, and I'm also the statewide Asian American Director. And it's with great joy that I join you this evening and with a deep sense of gratitude, because South Asian Unity for me is something that's very, very personal. My dada, my grandfather, was from Burma. My dadi, my grandmother, was from Bangladesh. My dad was born in Agra in India, and my mom is from outside of Pakistan in Hyderabad, and she went to school in Karachi. I spent the last several years of my life in public service. I worked for President Obama at the White House in 2015 and in 2016, and I had the high honor of going to Sri Lanka to do my Fulbright in Colombo. So I come to this event with a deep sense of humility and a deep sense of pride for our community and what we can build. But I also come to this event asking you and requesting you to vote for Joe Biden and for Kamala Harris to help us shatter the highest glass ceiling in America, to get an Asian American woman elected to the vice presidency of the United States in 2020, and to turn Texas blue. To turn Texas blue not just for 2020, not just for 2022, but for a generation to come. If you join us in this effort, and I request you to bring your family, your friends, your neighbors, your colleagues along, because what we do in 2020 on November the 3rd, we are enabling a conversation to change the direction of this country. What we're also saying is that the 800,000 Asian Americans who call Texas home and who are voters will be the margin of victory that decides this election. We make up 5.5% of the electoral map here in Texas. Beto O'Rourke lost our state by 2.6 percentage points. And it's important to share that because just the Desi community alone is greater than that number. Just the South Asian community, the South Asian voting community alone is greater than that number. So I wanted to share with you a few upcoming events in which I would love to request your participation and request your involvement. On Saturday, September the 5th at 1 p.m., we are hosting an event for Texas API women, Asian American women, in support of Biden-Harris. That's going to be taking place Saturday at 1 p.m. So I wanted to drop that in to you. I am sharing it with the panelists and with all the attendees. Also, every Saturday going forward, we'll be having a South Asian phone banking event. This is going to bring in groups from all across the state that have been focused on the South Asian vote. That's going to be taking place 2 to 4 p.m. every Saturday. Every Wednesday between now and election, we had one today, we'll be having National Asian American phone calls to include and invest in the Asian American community. And that's this last piece that I just shared with you. The very last thing that I want to share with you before we hop off this call is an opportunity to sign on to an Asian American woman op-ed in support of Kamala Harris for the vice presidency of the United States. And we've had 135 women from across the state, Asian American women who've signed on to this. If you are on this call, and if you are Asian American from Texas, I would encourage you to sign on and share your support of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We intend to share this with the press over the week and to make sure that the Asian American woman's voice is elevated as much as the rest of the community. So I am here to be a resource to anyone who is on this call. If you are interested in getting involved in the campaign, if you are interested in making phone calls, writing op-eds, doing text banking, please feel free to send me an email. I am here to be an advocate and a champion for our community. And I know that with your support and with your guidance and with your participation between now and the next 60 odd days that we have left, we will get Joe Biden into the White House. We will make Kamala Harris our next vice president of the United States. We will turn Texas blue and we will deliver those 38 electoral votes to change the White House's leadership and to change the direction of this country and to restore the soul of our country. So thank you so very much for having me. And thank you for hopping on this call. I really do.
Thank you, Kareem. We are very proud of you. Omer, I think we are over by 8 minutes.
Yeah, I think so. I'll just wrap it up. One last thing just to say, I don't know if we've mentioned this yet or not. The most important thing that you can do is to vote on November 3rd. Make sure you vote, make sure you're registered to vote, and please make sure that your grassroots organizing starts first in your own household. So are you registered to vote? Are your parents, your children, your nieces, nephews, grandparents, are all of them registered to vote? And make sure they have a plan on election day on what time and where they're going to vote. Because if we do not vote, we cannot get Donald Trump out of the White House. So with that, I want to thank the panel, Zafar, George, Kareem, Nishan, Cynthia, thank you for being on. Nita, thank you very much for being on as well.
And Omer, please thank the Bung. We could not have done this.
Radio Bung, thank you very much from the bottom of our heart. You opened up your airwaves to Joe Biden's campaign and to this panel and allowed us to use your airwaves. We appreciate it very much. And you have no idea the work or the help that you have done for this campaign and to help keep our democracy intact. So thank you very much. And with that, I'll close it out. Thank you very much for all the attendees. Please visit southasiansforbiden.org and please be on our phone banks, like Kareem mentioned. And let's win this. Let's do this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.